Happening now. We'd like to welcome our viewers from across North America and around the world. This is the EdTech Situation Room. This is episode 108 for September the 26th, 2018. I am Wes Fryer coming to you from Oklahoma City, where I am the Director of Technology at the Cassidy School. And normally I am joined by Jason Neifer in Missoula, Montana, but Jason is on extended assignment and gallivanting about the country, reportedly evangelizing the goodness of EdTech amidst all the bad news from Facebook and other social media sites. Jason is ready to, counter that entire narrative. But joining us as a special guest, and we have a series of guests lined up for the coming weeks, is Miguel Gulen, who probably is most famous for, in the early days of blogging, being a fearless, individual, setting himself on fire to draw a crowd. And I think recently has become the official North America spokesman for Microsoft EDU. And I'm so thrilled to have Miguel here. I know we're going to have a good conversation. Miguel, you are looking like you're at an Edward Snowden motel or hotel tonight. Are you joining from Hong Kong or somewhere else?
Well, I'm not allowed to reveal my location. However, I do want to say that I am working on a Microsoft project at this time. So I can't give you too many details about it, except that it is a free workshop that's being facilitated. It's on Make Code, Microbit, Physical Computing. It's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. It's tomorrow.
Oh, I want to know about that. So I will let you know that in the last week or so, we have activated our Microsoft 365 education account, and we've had the green light. And this is actually something I needed to do weeks ago, but things have been a bit busy around our shop at school. But we have jumped into the Minecraft education license for all of our middle school 5th through 8th graders. And our Makerspace teacher, Eric Sappington, has just been chomping at the bit to jump into the Make Code. And the stuff that he's showed me is just awesome. And he's already had kids doing things through Make Code with little LED, circuit boards and ways, the kids are using block-based programming to create algorithms that have a physical manifestation. And there's all this amazing stuff that he's doing. So are you going to be doing anything in terms of Arduinos or connect? I mean, do you know what you're connecting tomorrow as far as?
Yes. I would love to get a Circuit Playground Express. It's the little one, a little circular device that you can connect. And but we haven't had a chance to purchase that. I should just order one. But and I think those run about $12, $15. I'm not sure. But the Microbit is one that we'll be using tomorrow's session, and basically taking advantage of some of the projects that are already on the site. But if you go online or just check out the Microbit Twitter account, it is incredible, all the awesome stuff that kids can do with it. And I think people just don't see it. And what's more, now that you have that Office 365 license, by the way, I just want to clarify, you need to keep Microsoft license versus Office 365. I always talk about the Microsoft license as your personal account. Your Microsoft account is your personal account. Your Office 365 is your work account. Sometimes people mix those up, and it just causes a lot of confusion. So, but now that you have your Office 365, or that you're getting it, that's great, because you'll be able to get Minecraft, and then you'll be able to do the Make Code in Minecraft Education Edition. So.
Exactly. Well, and as I've done the licenses, the one weird thing, and I got to contact Microsoft about this tomorrow, and we will, by the way, be talking about the week's technology news before we.
Great.
But there's a little link, because we bought X number of licenses, that as students log in with their account, it can automatically grant them the license, because there's some cleanup that we need to do in that child organization from Google that I, imported as the CSV file and all that fun stuff. Anyway, and it doesn't work in the Chrome or Firefox browser. So I've got to contact Microsoft to figure out, do I have, and anyway, I can try to do that in the Edge browser. I don't know if that's a browser thing or what, but I actually activated the licenses without giving everybody Office 365. Microsoft really wants you to, but we're having those conversations right now at school about what is it that we want to activate. We've been a Google school for 7 or 8 years. And so anyway, Microsoft's strategy of the Minecraft purchase, and can we bring more people to the fold by having Minecraft? It's worked. So, and I'm excited, because we've had Minecraft EDU for, gosh, since 2013, I've been working with it, and 5 years, and it's awesome. And I would have been struck by lightning to say this, years ago, but it's awesome to see how Microsoft has innovated in this space, and especially all the things they're doing with coding and the ways that they connect it to so much. It's fantastic. And I can't wait to see, because we already have teachers coming to the makerspace. We have a new middle school makerspace, and it's great to see all that innovation.
It is. Hopefully folks that are listening and watching have gone to the education.minecraft website and checked out all the neat things that are happening, especially take a look at the blog and the lesson plans. And, when they first started out, I said, wow, there's not that much stuff here, but they have been adding and innovating so much that it's just incredible. So I definitely agree with you. And what I really like about the Make Code is that it works with so many different platforms. It's
Right.
completely free. It works on all your devices, your Chromebook, iPad, whatever. And you can control, your Lego robotics, the EV3, as well as the Circuit Playground Express, the Microbit, Dot and Dash, all of those.
Yep.
So you show kids how to use Make Code. They can go flip over to JavaScript, or there you can even use Python, which I don't know anything about. I'm happy to admit. But you know what? My daughter, who is a doctoral student now, she had to learn Python so that she could finish her geography degree. You think, who's going to need Python for geography or whatever? I am sure that in the next few years you'll probably need Python for finish an English degree.
English, yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, we want to give a shout out to Peggy George, who's joining us live in our chat room. We want to encourage anybody who might happen to be tuning in live on our YouTube link. There is a chat there on the right side, and I've got monitoring that on my other screen over here to give voice to any questions or comments. We appreciate Peggy joining us. And we are the EdTech Situation Room. So normally on Wednesday evenings, we are here, and we did skip last week, but we will take a look at relatively recent news articles relating to technology, and then talk about those from an educational perspective. And I did know up front that having Miguel on the show, we were guaranteed to hear about Microsoft goodness. So we hope that the Apple overlords are not going to strike us down. Fortunately, they don't control Google, so I think we're just fine on this Google Hangout tonight. But let's take a look at a few articles. And actually, I think the one I'll start with, I just finished reading today, and this was from Business Insider yesterday on September 25th, and the title is YouTube star Brandon Rogers tells the inside story of his rise to 4.5 million subscribers, from his big break to clueless execs and Facebook's one hilarious request. And this is a fascinating article talking about how hard he worked and how he thought a lot of years were just going to be wasted, but he's really been on the edge of a lot of platforms. And the article says, I think until he reached 1 million subscribers, it really wasn't paying his bills. He was hired by a law firm when he moved to Los Angeles to create day in the life stories that were really that were sob stories about, the challenges that someone was facing. And then that was shown in court to sway a jury to award a benefit to somebody. And he ended up connecting with that camera man, and then, starting to do comedy. And anyway, it just really, I think, speaks to what is the dream of many teens today, and that is to become a YouTube star. It's really a lot like probably going to the NFL or the NBA. This is not something that a lot of people are going to do, but it is happening. And it's pretty fascinating to see, what is happening on the media landscape. Of course, it impacts us in the classroom and impacts us in school, but then also, thinking about the ways that people are making living, doing things like playing games and doing comedy routines and all kinds of things. So, Miguel, what have you seen? I know you've got a daughter now in, doctoral program. Is your son graduated from high school, or where is he?
He's graduated from high school.
Oh my gosh.
I know, time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah. What have you seen for them as far as YouTube? I mean, has that been a big part of their lives? And what is how much does that play into your own learning and life at this point as an adult?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have to share this story because just when you're raising a young man, you're hoping that something's going to happen, that they're going to wake up and say, "Oh, I found my passion for life," and they'll follow that, and then they'll be okay. Well, my son, for several years, had access to all the great technologies, but he always said he wanted to be a big YouTuber, right? He's
Really?
watching all these YouTube guys, and I forgot the name of all the ones that he mentioned, but they were all big name stars, and but he never produced a video. And I remember I asked him one time, your 10-year-old cousin just has her iPhone, and she's already posting videos online and doing stuff and appearing in videos. What's stopping you? Of course, she's probably in violation of all of all the rules, but still. So he finally started producing, and he started making videos about nothing at all, it seemed. And I remember one of his proud moments. He called me over and he said, "Dad, look at this," and he showed me a check for 1 cent. And I looked at it and I said, "Huh, that was his ad revenue, 1 cent."
Literally, they sent him a check for 1 penny.
Well, I don't think they didn't send him a check, but it was online. It was on screen, so it was like showing how much he had made. And it was like, I looked at it and I thought, wow, it's just a penny. I could give him a penny. In fact, I could walk around the house and I could find more than what he's made off of 100 videos that he's published to YouTube. But then I realized, oh my gosh, he's actually, earning ad revenue on YouTube. No Gulen has ever done that, ever. In the whole history of Gulens, all the way from back to Sweden, all the way to America, no one has ever in our family made a penny off of the internet in this way. So what a celebration that was. And he started growing because of his desire to publish videos on YouTube. And he started using open source video editing tools.
I can't imagine who influenced him to turn to open source.
Not me. I tried to get him to
For
use
real?
Linux.
For real?
Yeah.
It wasn't you? Oh, wow.
The boy turned away from Linux. I thought he was doomed. He insisted that he loved Windows. And he started using, this was, of course, before Windows 10. He started using all of these different editors, video editors. Eventually, I had to do a workshop or session. I said, "Hey, do you know of any good video editors?" He said, "Yeah." And then he told me what it was. I was like, "Oh, I'd never even heard of that one. Let me go ahead and try it out." And then I guess the end of the story is that he's now in college at Texas State.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, at Texas State. And he is...
What kind of an animal is that on your hat, on your head?
I have no idea. I think it's a bobcat.
Okay.
Texas State Bobcats.
That's all right.
Pretty cool. But yeah, so he's like doing all this stuff with video. He's into social media or whatever the degree that goes along with it. I don't know what that is, marketing or something. But anyways, he's doing all this stuff. He's cranking out videos. But is YouTube really the place where we need to end up, Wes? They're talking about Twitch TV and stuff like that. Do you have something going on Twitch?
My son is, he loves, it's amazing how kids like to watch, and not just kids, but folks like to watch other people game. And this is a big deal. I mean, we had a headline about that when there was a shooting recently, right? With a EA Sports sponsored event, I think, in Florida.
Oh yeah.
Where people were shot. But like the gaming industry is huge. And this is going to continue to be a reality, like the power of the tools and the immersive, multidimensional features of the worlds in which people are going to be able to play games and then create games, and all that is just going to continue. So, I mean, that article from Business Insider was pretty interesting because this Brandon Rogers has really, kind of jumped from platform to platform. He was an early YouTuber, but actually was censored and stuff was taken down. Then he was offered some stuff with Facebook, and he produced some series there. There was another platform that, what was it? I guess I could pull up the article, but it was one that they pulled the plug. AT&T and some other companies are trying different subscription-based stuff. I mean, people are iterating. And that's one of the lessons from the article. He says the execs don't know what they're doing. They know talent is needed. And so in some cases, they're paying talent to produce content. but you know, it was really he jumped to fame through Vine because people made 6-second clips over some of the things that he was doing, and he does comedy. And to be clear too, I have not watched his stuff. I think there's stuff that really, you know, presses the boundary, so very well could be a not safe for work kind of thing. But he, you know, has moved from platform to platform, and through Vine, he didn't get attribution for what he did. And it was actually another YouTuber that learned that because he plays characters and he dressed up in costumes. And so somebody kind of put the pieces together like, oh, this one is this guy, is this guy. They gave him credit. He said overnight, 27,000 more subscribers, you know, came. Wow. Now he's got over 1 million people. I mean, video is a part of the landscape. I mean, one of my favorite things to say in workshops is video is the pencil of the 21st century. So I think every student needs to become conversant, not only in the, you know, wise and responsible consumption of media, but also the effective, and I would say, you know, ethical production of media as well. I don't have this in the show notes, but there was a great NPR this morning. I listened on my Google Home. One of my news channels is NPR, and they were talking about deep fakes and the way that in these midterm elections, we're going to undoubtedly see videos that are created by algorithms that make candidate X say whatever, you know, opponent Y wants them to say. And so, you know, in the same way that we look at hopefully pictures and think about Photoshop and how that is, you know, possibly not the way that person looks, or it's, you know, that alien head is really not on Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever. We're going to have to look at video in the same way. You know, it's just, it's an incredibly dynamic and fast changing environment. And so, no, I don't know that YouTube is where we all need to land. And I would say as a dad who has been helping our daughter for years, you know, with her channel, and she's got over 800 or 900 subscribers or something like that, not producing as many videos as she has been. She's a 9th grader now, freshman in high school. It's a landscape where we need to be engaged together because there are definitely landmines. Any of us can go viral at any time, and it's probably not going to be for a good thing, you know, and a lot of that attention can be really negative and just horrific. I mean, especially the kinds of things that women face, you know, coders, there's horrific trolling and bullying and things like that go on. But as you're telling the story about your son, and I can tell stories about Rachel, there's wonderful, wonderful skills. There's friendships. There's literacy skills, right, that they are developing and acquiring. And so the landscape is not one of just horrific, this is all terrible. Far from it. There's all kinds of great potential and possibility, but it's also fraught with danger. And that's, of course, what we're going to hear most of in the mainstream media is, you know, the cases of, you know, horrible uses of social media.
So Wes, is Rachel the one who made the Minecraft videos on how to build a house and all of that?
Absolutely.
I have to tell you, those have been very helpful. I've passed those on to lots of people. I was, as you know, I just yesterday found out that I am the first Texan to get ISTE certified.
Now, what did that involve?
That involved a long journey.
A lot of goldfish being swallowed that were, you know.
I don't know about goldfish, but yeah, it was very interesting. But I was taking a look at the ISTE standards for students, and you know, it's with the creative communicator one really sort of it directly applies here. You know, students communicate complex ideas clearly and effectively by creating or using a variety of digital objects, visualization, models, simulations. You know, all of those standards directly apply to exactly what you've been saying. And I think it's so critical that our kids learn how to manipulate and create video. If they don't, they're going to be, I mean, they're left by the wayside. They're the silent masses out there that nobody will ever know anything about. They won't be able to participate and make money in today's society, at least at the level that we would hope for them to be able to. And knowing how to edit a video, how to create a video is just so important. And I don't think it's limited to becoming an Adobe expert and buying into a specific platform. You don't have to know Adobe Premiere to create engaging videos.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been on LinkedIn and seen some of the videos that college students are creating and putting out there?
I did update my resume for some reason on LinkedIn recently, but I have not spent a lot of time there, no. So are these like self-promotional or branding kinds of videos to tell the world who they are and what they can do?
Well, they're not so obvious or direct as that. They are creating incredible content. There's a young lady who does presentations, and sort of challenged all these other, I guess, social media students, and they are creating videos on just a variety of topics. To give you one example, there's one on speaking, and it was offering some of the most phenomenal advice, and very quick, very approachable, easy to watch and listen to, and put into practice. And I just think, man, this is the kind of stuff that all of us need to be able to know how to do and feel comfortable doing.
Right.
And the
Exactly.
only way, as you know, to get there is to do it, to do all this stuff.
Play with media. Show what you know with media. These are
That's
things
right.
we're passionate about. Well, shout out to David Warlick, author of Raw Materials for the
Woohoo,
Mind,
David.
who was one of the first people that I really heard say loud and clear, if you want to be literate in the 21st century, you have to use the tools of the 21st century in order to communicate. And that's far beyond the paper and pencil education that the older folks around schools, are so familiar with and we're steeped in. So I think that is still true, and that's why it's exciting to see whether it's Microsoft or Google or Apple or company du jour. It's really not about the company. It's really about using the technology to communicate, using it to express, using it to be creative, developing communication skills. We have been passionate about communication and for blogging for a long, long time. And did you start blogging in 2003, or do you know exactly your year of starting
I think I
around the
started
corner?
the summer before you,
Okay,
because I
so
remember you approached me and you said, "Hey, I noticed you're doing something." What year was that, anyways? Because I lost track.
I think that my podcast started in 2005, and I think 2003 was my blog. So,
Okay,
yeah, because it was like iBlog. It was like this, downloadable client blog that actually Bob Sprankle had started with a few different ones before WordPress. WordPress started for 2005. So.
I was using Thingamablog,
Yes, you
which,
were.
if you
Yes,
can
you
go
were.
online, you can still find Thingamablog. I think the biggest disappointment was the server that I had hosting over 7,000 entries that I'd written in Thingamablog went down.
Yes, that's right.
So
That's right. Back in the day. All right.
yeah,
Well, let's talk a little privacy, because I know this is a topic that you
love
feel
that. Yeah.
passionate about. And for those of you that may not know, on edtechsr.com/links, you will find an embedded Google document which has all of the links from today's 108th episode and all previous episodes. At some point, we're going to have to break this off and probably put something on another document. But we've got titles over these, and so there's about 5 or 6 articles under privacy. There was a really big, I guess some people would say, landmark decision. I read about it because I periodically go look at what Edward Snowden has to post. I mentioned him tongue in cheek at the beginning of the show, but there was a really big decision in England. So the Guardian on September 13th published an article, GCHQ, which is like the CIA of the United Kingdom. Data collection regime violated human rights, court rules, and then a website and I think nonprofit called Big Brother Watch on the same day, September 13th, posted UK mass surveillance ruled unlawful in landmark judgment. And so this is the revelation of Edward Snowden, that we were having, the huge sort of virtual vacuum cleaners in the United States and in Great Britain, sucking all of this data, ingesting all of this data without warrants, without probable cause, and then building profiles about all of these individuals, that was illegal. That in this case, it violated EU rights that folks in the EU have. This was read this. The legal claims already been heard by the UK's investigatory powers tribunal were brought by a coalition of 14 human rights groups and privacy organizations, including Amnesty International, Liberty Privacy International, and Big Brother Watch, as well as journalists. So, Miguel, what do you think? This is kind of a vindication, perhaps, in the eyes of some, of what Edward Snowden did. What do you think about his revelations? And if we think about digital citizenship in schools today, what would you say teachers need to be communicating to students, or just asking them so that they're talking about issues that would relate to this kind of privacy violation and mass surveillance by nation states?
Well, I think we need to be really careful what we're doing in schools today, because in some ways, I think we're laying the ground for even greater surveillance down the road. And I know that Edward Snowden revealed confidential secrets and put those out there. But he is, to me, he seems like he's sacrificed his whole life to bring us this information. And I know that down the road, probably everybody will look and say, "Oh my gosh, what he's done for us has been really valuable." When I look at just what the judges were considering, the bulk interception of communications, like you said, they're vacuuming up all of our data. It doesn't matter that most of that data is probably not a big deal, but it's like having somebody in your bathroom, you're going to the restroom. It's like, really butt out, get out of all of this. And if we continue to encourage our education systems to just push for compliance, our students are going to grow up and they're going to accept government overwatch. And I'm an American. I'm not I'm not in some other country where it's okay to do that. Apparently we're in the United States of America, and it's time to push back. And I keep expecting that government, especially the political entities that have so long said, we stand for all these rights. Instead, they're selling us down the river just to satisfy their political desires and be able to sell us. It's just wrong, and I'm glad that at least the Europeans have pushed back. So.
It's interesting to see Europe take a leadership role with the GDPR, the General, what is it, Directive on Privacy Regulation or whatever. Yeah, but it is GDPR, or whatever this, privacy regulation. Of course, I think what we hope, we've talked with Jason about this, is that there's not an overcorrection, which oftentimes there is politically, where not only innovation gets stifled, but I mean, there's people worried about the heart of the internet being broken, right? A fragmented internet, because people say, oh, all that data has to be in my country. And, the power of the internet that goes back maybe for you to 2002, 2003, for me, is this incredible ability to say, yes, I'm saving this on this internet connected computer, and people around the world can access it and can read that. I mean, it's just that's a mind-blowing capability. That's the publish at will, back to 2005 was talking about that kind of thing. And now, of course, there's all the dark side of that with fake news and the ways that, platforms like Facebook have been weaponized, and, we're seeing all kinds of things. But I would say, Edward Snowden should be in the curriculum, right? Like the mass surveillance and what happened in response to really 9/11, and the ways in which countries have changed normal when it comes to surveillance is a really important thing. And I'll say on a personal note, as a director of technology, we've got over 120 cameras, surveillance cameras on our campus. There's really good reasons for that. I mean, there have been things in the past and whatever in terms of like a passive go back and see that we're able to, find out what occurred and, take action and have, have video evidence. And that can be a very positive thing. We just gave some chapel talks this last week to our middle and high school students, and we have a new responsible use policy. And part of that, which parents, of course, signed as part of enrollment, but we have asked the students to sign and to acknowledge, is letting them know, hey, when you're using our wireless, we can peer into the packets and see things. We use Gaggle, which is a tool that proactively, most importantly, I think, tries to identify if someone says they're going to harm someone, bring weapons to school, or they're, contemplating suicide or planning that. And so anyway, it's really, it's a changing society. I kind of think that the trajectory of technology has just been to give the authorities more and more power, and surveillance is a big part of that. And we see the extremes of that in China, certainly. And then, there's countries, Iran, Turkey, Qatar. I mean, a lot of Middle Eastern countries, Yemen. Oh my gosh, the jailing of folks there, but, in Myanmar, lots of other places. So I think these are topics that a lot of teachers don't feel comfortable talking about, maybe are not knowledgeable about. We're going to actually recognize, I think, and it celebrates the wrong word, but Digital Citizenship Week is coming up. I think it's the third week of October. And so we're going to have a series of talks. And one of the things, and I'd love your input on that, Miguel, is, one of the days we're going to have some talks from a graduate talking about digital footprint and the ways in which social media has, he's navigated the pitfalls of that, but taken advantage of it. Because the person who's going to talk is I don't remember his exact title now, but he's basically our social media coordinator at school. And so all of our channels and, posting to these different things, engaging, I mean, it's his full-time job. But those other topics, like what are we going to talk about? Because I think it's easy to do a shock and awe, let me scare you that the internet is bad. But there's also a lot of topics to discuss that we really need students to wrestle with. And I would think privacy has got to be close to the top, because it is an important issue. And if we don't make it important, it seems like we're just going to get steamrolled by the man or whatever. I don't know if that makes sense. But
no, I definitely agree with you on this. I definitely see the need for more conversations about digital citizenship. I hate to bring up the ISTE standards again, but
okay,
I've got them pulled up anyway, so I might as well. So I think what you're talking about here really refers to one of their standards about maintaining a digital identity, digital footprint. But the one that I think concerns me the most is students managing their personal data. So we want them to grow up knowing how to encrypt their data, to use encryption doesn't have backdoors for the government and the crooks that are trying to get into it. And I don't know if you saw it, but there was recently there was a article. It looks like it came out September 13th. So FBI raises alarm on EdTech and student data privacy and security. Mm-hmm. So I went ahead and dropped it in the group chat so you can find it. But if you do a quick search on FBI and EdTech, you'll be able to pull up several articles that sort of talk about this. And they said that the widespread collection of sensitive information by EdTech could present unique exploitation opportunities for criminals. And I think this is just really funny because they put this public service announcement out with one hand, the government is saying, hey, EdTech is presenting all these opportunities for malicious use of sensitive data. And then on the other, our data is being compromised by the government itself and being scooped up and then not secured properly. When I look back over the last 3 years and think about how many data breaches my data has been exposed in, including some by state government, it's just unbelievable. I can't use a strong enough word. Ticked off. What's up with that? Let's get angry about it. But we also need to get smart and protect our data, and then push for reforms that are going to enable us and put in our hands the tools. Because just like you said earlier, yeah, anybody can publish at will, but now we need, since all of our data is out there and we're able to put information out there, we need to be able to encrypt at will. And for a lot of our children, we don't show them that encrypt at will ideas because it would make oversight or control of them more difficult. And to me, that seems like the beginning of a oppressive government, organization, institution, etc.
Miguel, have you posted a blog on Encrypt at Will? That sounds like a forthcoming post from you if it's not already happened.
Yeah, no, I haven't posted one yet, but thank you for making the suggestion. I'll have to do that. Sure. Now, one of my favorite tools that's out there is the Paranoia Works. Have you seen? Did y'all recently talk about that?
I put it as a Geek of the Week to do at some point, but I don't think I've talked about it. So tell us about it.
Wow, it is a phenomenal tool. Works on all your mobile devices. You can encrypt text. They also have a web-based presence. When we implemented safeguarding sensitive data in policies in my previous school district, that was the tool that I went to as the tool to use and train people on, because it's free, it's open source. That means anybody can look at the code and prevent backdoors and stop that, and it works on multiple platforms.
So let's bring another article to this, and then I'm going to ask you about your sort of elevator pitch for why we need encryption. The EFF on September 24th posted the article, Australian government ignores experts in advancing its anti-encryption bill. And this is the same kind of chorus that we continue to hear from Homeland Security forces saying, oh, you really, we need to make sure you have a back door to your software because we've got to stop terrorism. But the problem is once you open a back door to law enforcement, now you've opened up a clear, door for any kind of malicious bad actors, and those folks are going to be able to find that. So, Miguel, I would guess that you are not in favor of mandatory backdoors for, software and smartphones and things like that. What is your elevator pitch for why encryption is important and why mandatory backdoors, and I'm guessing here for you, why that would not be a good idea for governments to mandate?
So, terrible elevator pitches, Wes. Thanks a lot. So, as I think about it, we have tons of personal data that we have to manage that the government can't manage for us. And I sort of think of it as sort of like the American frontier, because we are very much on the frontier of this. More and more people are connected to the internet every day. They have tons of information, personal identifiable information, health information, financial, and we have trusted all of our institutions, and all of them have failed to protect our data. We have to take ownership of that. If you had asked an American pioneer who, living on the edge of hostile territory, hostile because we were probably appropriating other people's lands, to be sensitive to Native American perspective here, would he have said, I'm going to depend on some faraway authority to protect me? The answer is no. Where has the American spirit gone that said, we're going to be independent, we're going to take ownership, and we're going to push back? Would we ever dream of telling those American pioneers and their children that they couldn't get the tools they needed to defend themselves? The answer is no, of course not. So why are we doing that now in today's society? Why are we raising our children to be dependent on a government that's going to, unfortunately, be incompetent about protecting their data? And when I say this, I mean this across all. I have been breached. All of my data is out there. My entire family, even my mother's data. And she was in her 80s. All of her data was completely out there and lost by teacher retirement system and schools, health, doctors, emergency rooms. What's the deal with that? If they can't manage our data, who has to do it? We do. And you know what? I'm so glad to say that the ISTE standards for students clearly say students manage their personal data. And it all begins not just with your digital footprint, but also being able to show them the tools. So Wes, are you going to empower your students not only to publish at will, but also encrypt at will and put that data on your network and on your cloud storage devices, and then you can't get into it?
You're giving me some good food for thought. And I'm thinking another, blog post is digital self-reliance. Because when you're talking about pioneers, you're thinking about defense, think about self-reliance. That's a key part of really the romantic vision of pioneers and, the 1800s of America and earlier. So I might do that. I need to come up, and this is only a few weeks away, and I do have some responsibility over coming up with these chapel talks and these discussions that we're going to do. And then in our advisory, we've got advisory time with faculty, and there's important stuff to grapple with. And I think based actually on a conversation today with our middle school tech liaison, I mean, she was talking with her advisees about privacy and about, she was helping them realize that the school does have the right to go through your school bag or to go through your phone. And, we're a private school, so that's a little different even than public school, but public school too, like if there's disruption and there's probable, cause, it's been a while since I've gone through those legal classes, and I, have been an administrator for a while, but not an assistant principal or a principal. But anyway, those kids were responding, well, we should have privacy and we should be able to, have things that we keep to ourselves. So I think it is a touchstone that's very sensitive. And anyway, it's given me some good food for thought. I'll shout out to an article about let's see, what was I going to do?
Well, you're looking for that, Wes. I have to also throw an oppositional perspective here, because I know that there are probably listeners saying, we are. What if you have an educator or a staff member who is taking advantage of VPNs, encrypting all their traffic? They're using a DuckDuckGo or what's the browser?
Tor.
Or any one of those tools, and they have data. Maybe they're storing pornographic images on their work machine, on their laptop. Certainly that has happened. In fact, we've had suspicion of that happening in different places that I've worked, and I know that other technology directors have to deal with that as well. But let's be honest, how many of those people do we actually have in our schools that are doing that? And we hope that they won't take advantage of all these tools, but some of them do. And I think that the convenience of being able to catch these people with I guess I'd hate to say with their pants down, but catching them with putting inappropriate content on work machines is just crazy.
Well, we can justify things based on the behavior of outliers, right? Like terrorism, and the fact that we have some people who are radicalized and who are doing some, pretty bad things. We don't want we don't want normal to be completely defined by the behavior of the outlier. And I think that's a challenge for school administrators, for a lot of folks. This is an article I wanted to shout out to. This is Business Insider on September 12th. Google Cloud's new AI chief is on a task force for AI military uses and believes we could monitor, quote, pretty much the whole world, end quote, with drones. And, we need kids to be learning robotics. Microsoft MakeCode sounds great. There are careers that are happening right now, today, as well as will be in the future, programming drones, controlling drones, doing sort of live fly-by-wire stuff, but also writing algorithms for how these things are going to, patrol over. I heard an NPR a number of months ago, and interestingly, these kind of things sometimes happen outside the United States. So this was, I think, right across the southern border of the United States and Mexico. But they were talking about the benefit of having these drones overhead all the time. And so when a crime happened, they could rewind the tape, see where these cars that had done this drive-by shooting were going back to, and then they busted down the doors and arrested these folks. And they had evidence that, these vehicles that had done these drive-by shootings, where they originated and who was responsible for that. And so, I did a TEDx talk a few years ago about digital citizenship in the surveillance state. And I really do think that just about wherever you live today, unless you're in a remote Amazonian jungle village, or you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean or something, I mean, if you're in a quote unquote, developed country, surveillance is a huge part of your life, whether you realize it or not. I think you've tweeted before about stingrays. These are these things that law enforcement have bought that, masquerades as a cell phone signal, but allows them to intercept and, kind of like the mass surveillance that Snowden reported on, ingest vast amounts of data and then be able to utilize it. So these are important issues to talk about. And I think that one of the things that was raised when we were talking about a framework for digital citizenship was that we needed to include student voice and student advocacy. And so I think that, perhaps opening the eyes of students, or just, directing them towards what kinds of issues matter here and what needs your advocacy. We are seeing what Jason Neiffer calls a technology correction, where because of what's happened with elections, what's happened with Facebook, Cambridge Analytica, yada, 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 we're seeing a movement in the United States, as we've had in Europe, to regulate. And so there's a high likelihood that we're going to see some kind of privacy, regulation in the United States. I definitely think, in the same way that we can find out what credit agencies know about us and have a chance to correct that record if it's wrong, right now there's an opacity or a barrier that stands between us and the data that's been collected by these companies about us, and that we should be able to have access to what they've collected and what they're selling and monetizing, and then actually have a chance to, erase it or do something about that. What is your prediction, Miguel? Do you think that we're going to have some sort of regulation in the whole realm of social media and privacy? And do you have opinions about whether that's a good or a bad thing?
I don't think that the regulation, if it comes out, I think that it's in the government's best interests, law enforcement, to strip as many of our freedoms away as possible, as our rights. And I think that rather than see regulations that are going to safeguard our rights, we're going to see those go away, especially if we continue with the current administration and going forward. I hope that I'm worried because we have, it seems like, two polar extremes, Republicans, Democrats on either side, that we're going to just get seesawed back and forth between these two uh, almost radical perspectives, and the moderate perspective, the middle ground, is gone. You can't have a conversation without it becoming inflamed one way or the other.
Right.
And so it's fun. It makes for great cable TV and EdTech situation rooms. But the reality is, I think we'd like a little bit more moderation.
Well,
Go ahead.
It's amusing ourselves to death, right? That's
Yes.
the Neil Postman view of mainstream media. If it bleeds, it leads, and sort of we go down a rabbit hole. It's not a great place to be as a society, as those kinds of things dominate the headlines.
I think the only thing we can protect really is what's in our heads, and hopefully we won't get that kind of technology until I'm gone. But one of the you mentioned the drone surveillance, and one of the books that sort of really opened my eyes to that was a fiction book, and it completely caught me off guard. And I would just want to recommend it to listeners. There's no kickbacks or anything. It's just one of the books I really enjoyed. The author's name is Daniel Suarez, Suarez, and the title of the book is Kill Decision. And it was written or published in 2012. I think it's a must read. If you haven't thought about these issues, or you need to sort of imagine what it might be like, definitely check that out. He's got some other great ones out there as well. When we're talking about gaming and its prevalence and how it's moving out there, you definitely need to read some of his books, his other books, because I love this idea that he came up with, where every foot or area of the earth has been mapped. And it's hard to imagine now, to think that every part of the earth could be so easily mapped, but we're seeing technology that's going to be incredible in the next few years.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And so imagine turning that into a virtual space where you're walking around, and of course this is augmented reality. Some of this is already here.
Yeah.
So it's not a unimaginable future. It's just right around the corner. So
it is, absolutely. And I've dropped this link into the show notes. We had, pardon me, an article a couple of weeks ago about Antarctica and just the level of detail down to which, I mean, we're talking of like foot, 3 feet level detail, just incredible that we have. And so, keep in mind those declassified documents that we have about DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Agency. I mean, they're 10 to 20 years ahead of where we are as consumers. And so it's incredible what their capabilities are. And we are glimpsing dimly as unclassified civilians into, what that kind of capability is. So I dropped that in as an additional geek of the week for you. Let's talk quickly about Apple. I know that that's not your favorite company to talk about, but linked to what you're discussing and we're talking about with privacy, Mac Rumors on September 25th had the article Apple's Bud Tribble to offer support for, quote, comprehensive federal privacy legislation at Senate hearing on Wednesday, and that was today. I think it's very interesting to see how Apple has stood on that bandwagon, saying we don't monetize our customers, and they're producing a product physically that they want folks to buy. Whereas Amazon is getting us to purchase products from other people, and companies like Google and Facebook are really monetizing our data, and so we're willingly giving this information away and then allowing that to be monetized and sold. And so I think that's important to track. And then the other thing that I definitely want to do a shout out with, and I bet Peggy will enjoy this if she hasn't read it already. There is a wonderful article from Wired Magazine on September 16th called An Oral History of Apple's Infinite Loop. And there are just great, great stories from all kinds of folks that have worked at Apple for years and years, with lots of Steve Jobs stories and others, recounting where things have gone, in terms of the company. And if you are at all an Apple fan person, and you have been for a number of years, you will love that. So do you side with Apple, Miguel? I know you're very loving Microsoft at this point, but what do you think about Apple's stance on privacy? And I mean, do you think that's genuine, or do you, is that product marketing? What do you make of that?
Well, definitely want to commend Apple for taking that stand. I think we all cheered when Tim Cook said that it had to be protected, that we don't monetize our customers, and that the iPhone is one of the more secure devices. But I guess I'm a little jaded about the claims of any of the big, Apple, Google, Microsoft, and sometimes when I'm using any one of those devices, I know that my data is not. I don't have complete control over that data. And I think that, you go back to Richard Stallman and is it the Free Software Foundation, and the idea of trusted computing. We're just getting closer and closer to what he hinted at back then. And I know Richard Stallman comes across as really crazy and weird, but
he had some good points, and
we should pay
attention. Yeah.
And so I think we're just headed down that way. I have an Android phone, and it works great.
You're not running the Windows Phone, Miguel? What's up? Have the Microsoft overlords learned that you're running Android? You might, forfeit some from status in Redmond with that comment.
I don't know. I think I've seen. Well, we always value speaking the truth, and there's been a profound change, I think, at Microsoft. They've made a real effort to change, and I have to admit that one of the reasons I don't like some aspects of Apple is that I hate their MacBooks. I hate the new Macs that are coming out. Don't like the fact they've sort of undercut the processor. And
wait a minute, they don't know, or are you talking about? They haven't had a new announcement in the last week or so. Isn't that event still pending for this month or for October?
According to my inside sources.
Okay, very good.
No, just kidding. I don't know.
What do you run? What's your daily carry for computers,
Surface Book,
by the way?
Microsoft Surface Book.
Surface Book Pro?
No. This is a full Surface Book. It's not a Surface Pro tablet.
It's the hinge, and you can detach and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Best laptop I've owned, and I've had MacBook Air before they killed it. And
why is it so good? So convince me.
It's fast. The operating system doesn't get in my way. I'm able to I run any program that I want. If I want to, I can run Linux on the other side if I have to, or run it within Windows.
Do you just run Windows Defender, or do you have an antivirus favorite at this point for Windows?
My antivirus favorite would be Bitdefender, but I stopped paying for it because I found that Windows Defender does everything I need it to do. The only utility that I need now is that I use on a regular basis is Glary Utilities, Glary Utilities.
What does that do?
Well, it helps optimize your registry, keep everything moving along pretty fast, and it also comes with a malware program. And I run the malware program, but to be honest, I have not had any problems, knock on wood, any problems on my Surface Books. And I have two of them that I use. And it's like, my gosh, these things are wonderful. I have one with an i7 processor and one with an i5. And in fact, I got the i5. That's the one I'm using right now through the Microsoft Surface Expert program. So definitely encourage you, if you're thinking about becoming getting into Microsoft education community, go to education.microsoft.com. Go be a Surface expert. It's awesome. And I got this Surface Book in the mail as a part of that.
So,
but to be clear, I bought my i7 processor Surface Book long before I ever got this.
We're having conversations. We had actually licensed Kaspersky a couple of years ago, And gosh, we've been having so much trouble with it slowing things down.
That's the Russians working with it.
Well,
Isn't Kaspersky Labs the one that
they don't know if they were
our
simply
esteemed
simply
president?
exploited because it gave them searchability through the root of the devices to say, hey, tell me everything that was classified, or whether they actually collaborated. But
yes, I'm sure they're digging through your school's.
well, right, we've got a
there's
lot of important information that Russia wants. I do need to give a shout out to my mother, who periodically listens to the show. She was the one who shared the article about Infinite Loop and Apple. And I want to, yes, my mother is on Twitter. She has a protected account, but it's a great thing to get to have mom share some articles that way. Let's see. There was one other one that I wanted to highlight. Well, I went ahead and put in the Gary Utilities as well as Kill Decision as some Geeks of the Week. And so we're going to have to, you've got a bunch of those.
Should we move away from privacy, though? We may
be. Unfortunately, we're at almost the top of the hour to do Geeks of the Week this time.
Oh my gosh, it's already
3
minutes to go.
Crazy. What is there another article you'd like us to talk about before we Geek of the Week it and head out?
No, we almost.
Well, the Evernote articles we could do, but it's a quick one. Boing Boing from September 19th. Evernote isn't looking too healthy these days. I was definitely a person to buy into Evernote and put tons of content there. I've actually found myself with Google Docs taking my notes and putting my stuff there. After reading that article, I did an export and actually ingested everything from Evernote into Google Docs as a backup. I'm going to guess, Miguel, that you love OneNote and that is your go-to, or am I wrong? Is there another place that maybe you're a Google Keep guy? What's your note-taking? Or do you even trust the cloud? Is it all local for you?
Yes.
Really?
To all of that. So, okay. So, Wes, since y'all are converting to Microsoft in the near future, Office 365, right. I definitely want to encourage you to check out OneNote because it is just phenomenal. You can copy and paste and drop tons of stuff. I could give you lots of great examples. I'm going to throw one out there right now. Just go to ly.tca.org/connect. That one is one of the ones that I use to just drop content. It's not a lot of content there, but if you were to go to ly.tca.org/MIE2018, you will find a zillion resources relevant to all of the Office 365 tools. In fact, that's probably a must-have link because that's a OneNote online notebook. You can put almost any kind of content into OneNote and it just works great. The only one that doesn't quite work great is PowerPoint. And the reason why is they got rid of Office Mix, one of my favorite tools. I'm still sort of sore about that, so I'm going to complain about it. So if you haven't looked at OneNote, it's 100% free, works on all devices, and they have been pouring so much money into it. You almost just need to load OneNote so that you can take a picture of text and use the OCR or the immersive reader so that you can get read aloud capabilities. This is a game changer for a lot of students with special needs or second language learners. And I definitely want to encourage you, look at OneNote. Really, I did not think that much of it several years ago, but it has made tremendous growth over the last year.
And I've heard great things about it. I do too.
You can drop stuff into it through if this then that, Wes. A lot of great for curation. Okay, so if you don't want to do OneNote, maybe you're a Google holdout. There is another fantastic note-taking tool that I 100% recommend. In fact, I'm archiving all of the blog entries that I've been writing recently, not necessarily for Around the Corner, but for that other blog that I don't want to just throw out there and say, because you might say I'm advertising or
Miguel,
something.
You are able to promote your spots. That's what we end the show by saying people can read from it.
Check out TCA Tech Notes blog. I keep an archive copy of my own just for my own portfolio, but Joplin is a fantastic tool. And for those of you that like Markdown, or if you're not familiar with Markdown, it's just a quick way to take a standard text file and just add, like pound symbols or hashtag symbols and asterisks, and it enables you to just convert your content, and it's very quick and easy. Lots of people use it. Joplin supports that. It supports HTML. It has a great app that works on multiple devices. And
this is what you guys use for Tech Notes?
Well, no, we use WordPress for Tech Notes, but I archive a lot of stuff and I keep my notes on there. And
can you drop that link in later on the show notes? Just under Geeks of the Week?
Yeah, and if you do a quick search, so on Joplin, Joplin notes, you should be able to find the website. It's it's got sort of a weird website, joplin.kozik.net.
Got it.
But it just works, and it saves all your files on variety of storage places, Dropbox, OneDrive, and I actually have all of mine saved on OneDrive, and they're saved as markdown files. But then you can sort of also get them into HTML. But it's so easy. I mean, I keep my let me see. I'm trying to find something that's not.
We're going to need, I want to give a shout out to Peggy. She said that, this is true. The Evernote article is pretty inferential. They talk about, staff trimming and things like that. I mean, Evernote may be doing the right kind of adjustment to their staff and whatever. They may not, we don't want to strike fear in the hearts of everyone, but we have seen Web 2.0 tools come and go. So are you saying, Miguel, that Joplin would be a better choice than Evernote?
Absolutely. I would say almost anything is a better choice than Evernote. Evernote is such a, I loved Evernote. I paid for Evernote. I was one of their fans. I was in their corner and I was spending money on them. And then they just went crazy trying to make more money and they completely ruined it. Then they started trimming away features for free. And even for paid users, they took away some of my beloved features. I had tons of curated content. Now I'll throw it all into OneNote or Joplin, and depending on how you like to do that, you could post it in OneNote and share it as a OneNote online notebook, which is what I've done with tons of stuff. If you were to go to ly.tca.org/TCAMEE, you'd find all my Minecraft Education Edition.
We've got it in the show notes. So, Fantastic. All right, we're going to have to do Geeks of the Week, and then we're going to get out of here. But I am going to have to ask this additional question, Miguel. So you, at some point, crossed the threshold to Microsoft fanboy. Can you point to that time? What was it that made you say, oh my gosh, there's great things happening in Microsoft, and just, really, it was a turning point in your own EdTech history? Because, I mean, I remember you historically as one of the loudest, open source, Linux advocates, and I'm going to guess you still have advocacy there. But what was your turning point with Microsoft? Is there a spot you can point to?
Well, what I'm looking for is a device that I can do what I want to do on it. And, when Apple started, the MacBook Air went down the tubes and they started coming up with a really terrible version of it and follow-up, I decided I was not going to go there. And so I looked for a different machine. I saw the Surface Book and it really captured my attention. I run Linux on my Surface Book on one side, and I also run Windows 10. Windows 10 works great. Everybody knows, I mean, Windows 7, Windows 8, they're pieces of junk. But Windows 10, although, remember, I know that when I'm working on a Windows machine or on a Mac or whatever, I do not trust that my data is safe, okay? Or in the sense of, I know that I could eventually be, infiltrated or whatever. But if you're working in a school situation, that's not really an issue there, is it? Your data is, you have no expectation of privacy.
Right. So the Surface Book was really the turning point for you.
Yeah, it's what sort of woke me up. And then, of course, I'm going to mangle his name, but the Satya Nadella, the new CEO, he's been
it's a new philosophy.
Yeah,
It's a new
completely
philosophy.
different.
Yeah, cross-platform, and much in the way that IBM's reinvented themselves, I think Microsoft has been in a similar kind of situation.
Absolutely. And I work with I get a chance to interact with lots of great Microsoft support staff. And I've had the opportunity to do that on the Apple side, but I continue to see that Apple is focused on making money, locking people down into their systems. And of course, to a limited degree, that happens with all of the big three, Apple, Google, and Microsoft. They all want you to adopt their particular ecosystem.
Right.
But I'm looking for the one that's going to enable me and make it easy for people to coexist
Be
and work
empowered.
well.
Be empowered to do
Yeah,
what you want
exactly.
to do. Be who you want to be. All right. Well, Miguel, your
Yeah.
advocacy for the ISTE standards has made me think that for those listeners out there that happen to be on the ISTE board and are contemplating, people that need to be brought into leadership, perhaps keynote speakers for the upcoming conference, Miguel Gulen certainly, needs to be on their list. And for those that are not following you, they certainly need to be. You've always been a font of knowledge for the latest in EdTech goodness. Let's go to Geeks of the Week. If you want to share yours, I'll share mine, and then we will close out the show because we're running a bit over the top of the hour. But the wonderful thing about the podcast is, hey, no advertisers are in this show or paying anything. We can do whatever we want. So what's your main Geek of the Week tonight?
Well, I got an email. It was about the Animoto data breach that took place just a few months ago. I'm sure you all probably covered it here at the EdTech Situation Room. But I had gotten this email, and actually, I think I just wrote about it right before the show opened up. So if you go to www.mguhlin.org, you can read the article on it and see the email that I received about the Animoto data breach. But at the same time, it was a juxtaposition of the Firefox monitor, which I see that y'all have discussed that already.
Well, not really. That was just an article we put in. I didn't mention it since it was your Geek of the Week. So go for it.
Thanks. Yeah. So I went over to the Firefox monitor and you enter your email, and I hope, Wes, I hope you don't mind, but I actually signed you up. Did you notice you got an email from Firefox monitor on your wesfryer@gmail.com?
You've just told everyone my email, Miguel. What the heck? I can't even edit this. Look at that. Well, not really. All right.
Send Wes an email at wesfryer@gmail.com.
Oh my gosh. All right. Yeah. That's right. I can't
feel free to email me. I'm at mgulen@tca.org.
Well, there's lots of spam in there already. So what's the heck? Anyway, so Firefox Monitor was Have You Been Pawned, right? Put into the Firefox to bring it to a larger audience as far as breaches. Have you been surprised at all by how many breaches your wonderful emails of old have been exposed?
Well, I was surprised when Firefox Monitor actually sent me the report. I realized, oh my gosh, I need to add this to my cyber security workshop that I do, because I had the other, the Have I Been Pawned website there. And it's a pretty phenomenal website. It's great to be able to log in. But Firefox Monitor follows up and sends you an email with a list of all of them. And in that blog entry I shared, it was like, oh my gosh, all of this is out there, and people just don't know. They're blissfully unaware that they're going to get hacked or whatever.
Right. Definitely. All right. Well, my Geek of the Week is pretty quick. It's the Learning Creative Learning, a free online course by the MIT Media Lab and Dr. Mitch Resnick. I've got a link to a 60-second promo video, but this starts on October 9th, completely free. Mitch Resnick has written a great book. He's the guy behind the Lifelong Kindergarten Group at MIT, Scratch, coding. And so this really explores learning projects through what he calls the 4 Ps: projects, passion, peers, and play. It is awesome. And I'm excited to be able to jump in there and connect with other educators, and would love to see any of you that might be listening to the show. So we are a bit over the top of the hour. We need to check out. So Miguel, when you are not on, podcasts like the EdTech Situation Room on Wednesday night, where can people follow you, read your good stuff? What kinds of websites do you want to definitely plug and have people save and visit?
So I do most of my, if you follow my Twitter account at MGUHLIN, you'll be able to see pretty much everything that I'm sharing. I curate quite a bit of content, and just like you, Wes, I am a voracious reader, but I don't read as much as you do, apparently. But website where I sort of process a lot of ideas, especially focused on teaching, learning, and leading, is at the TCA Tech Notes blog. You just go to blog.tca.org. And you'll be able to access just tons of phenomenal content. So I very encourage you to do that. And of course, I still blog at Around the Corner, www.mgulen.org since 2003. Wow.
It's been a while. Awesome.
It's
All right. Well, I am W. Fryer on Twitter. My blog, speedofcreativity.org, still gets an update or two every once in a while. I am writing a weekly newsletter that I write on Sunday nights. Without too much personal disclosure, I have realized that I need to be investing a little bit more time in, sort of EdTech writing. Would love to be able to do some more speaking and keynoting and things like that in the months and years ahead. Need to be working on some books, but the website digcit.us is the digital citizenship website, which I have created for our school. And actually, we'll be putting the video of the chapel talk that I shared with our school psychologist, Dr. Jerry Baca-McKinney, a couple of weeks ago. Tomorrow, we'll be talking to our lower division, which is our grades 1 through 4 elementary students, talking about our responsible use policy and digital citizenship. And anyway, there's going to be quite a bit coming out, in October as we recognize Digital Citizenship Week. So this is the EdTech Situation Room. We want to encourage you to share us with others. You can generally find us wherever podcasts are curated. You can tell your Amazon Assistant device, and we won't say her name, or your Google Assistant to play the latest episode of EdTech SR. You can find us on Stitcher, iTunes, Pocket Casts, whatever your favorite podcast catcher might be. Would love to hear from you if you've got ideas for shows, suggestions for future guests, or if you've got some feedback from Miguel Gulen. Definitely, share that. Later we'll be publishing Miguel's phone number and social security number for all of you who would like to reach out. No, we will not do that. But seriously, utilize Twitter.
210-61.
No. Miguel and I love to utilize Twitter as an educational networking tool. So we wish you a good night, as I'm going to cough at the end of the show. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, stay savvy and be safe.
I'm sorry, Wes, I messed up. It was 4:05 something.